Hi there guys, today's little video is going to be a walkthrough of using an emergency tyre repair kit, which a great deal of people carry around with them now under the bike seats and that kind of thing, because they're nice and small and compact, and they can save you a good sort of half to 3/4 of an hour wait by the roadside waiting for the recovery wagon, which generally speaking will just load your bike up and take it to the nearest garage anyway. It can get you back up on the road and running, and get you to finish your journey before you need to go and get a proper repair and all the rest of it. Because I'm going to be demounting this old tyre which has seen better days and replacing it anyway, it seemed like an ideal opportunity. So during the process of taking the wheel off and moving it around the workshop floor, I have accidentally run over a screw, as you can see there, which I then accidentally hammered into the tyre with a big hammer to replicate the effect of it being hammered into the tyre with a big piece of tarmac. So what we're going to do is go through the process using this kit down here, which I will show you. Let's remove all the rubbish off it. This particular one is kind of like a workshop kit really, and this would have originally contained tubeless repairs and tube patch repairs. Most of the under-seat ones, I carry one in my jacket, but most of the under-seat ones people will know, they'll be familiar with. Will fit in a jacket pocket or under even the very smallest pillion seat of a sports bike. They're very versatile. They usually contain somewhere in the region of about 3 plugs, a tube of adhesive, a couple of tools for the reaming and fitment, and typically 3 or 4 CO2 canisters and adapter to refill your tyre. Now it's occurred to me, having seen some of these in action before, that the CO2 tube seems to be the particular wearing problem on these, in the sense that it takes about 3 or 4 tubes just to get it up to a suitable pressure to get you to a garage and fill the tyre up to continue. And because you only get 3 in some kits like the one I have, then what you need to do ideally is use lose as little as possible, sorry. And I've been sort of thinking around that, and the logical thing for me, having noticed that when your reaming tool, which is this one here, is in the tyre, it minimises your air loss. So where you tend to see people use these, ream out the hole, put the rubber cement on, ream it out again, take this out and then load up your insertion tool, which is like a needle eye, you're losing an awful lot of air. So it occurred to me that if you approach it a little bit more logically, in theory you should be able to get a good repair with losing the smallest amount of air, and maybe only have to use 1 or 2 of the canisters to give you enough air to get yourself to a garage to pump up the tyre properly. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So in the kit we have the repair strips. You'll see there's 5 of them there. They're a kind of sticky rubber, and you coat these as well with hang on, so put that down so I can show you. And you can see there that it's a sticky strip, and you coat these with the vulcanizing cement as well, and this bunches up behind your tyre and seals it up and prevents air escaping. You get a tube of rubber cement, you get a little fold out knife for the purpose of cutting off the excess that's sticking out of the tyre. You've got your reaming tool, which gives you a nice round hole from your whatever your foreign object is for your plug to be inserted into. And then you get your insertion tool, which, as I say, is like the eye of a needle, but it's split at the end here, so that when you put your thread through, you push it into the tyre, twist it, which will spread this, and then pull it out, and that will leave your plug in the tyre and pull out the tool. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is load a strip into the tool in readiness. And then that way, when we actually pull out the reaming tool, we'll be all set to go to just push this straight into the tyre, and there'll be no struggling to get this into the tool and then get it coated with rubber cement after we've pulled the reaming tool out of the tyre and we're losing air. So you take your strip and you thread it through as best you can. It's not just going to slot through very easily. As I say, it's like a sticky rubber, thick rubber string. So you basically try and feed it through from this side, see if that's better. Yeah, it's essentially a thick sticky rubber string, so it's not going to be the easiest thing to thread through, so you just have to kind of wiggle that through until you can get a hold of it and then pull it through like so. Now what you're looking for is a sort of equal amount either side, like so, about that. So we've got that sat there ready and waiting, and if it's the first time you've used the kit, you will need to pierce your rubber cement. That one's dead. I suspected it would be. If it's the first time you've used your kit, you need to pierce your rubber cement tube. And there we go. First thing we need to do is get the reaming tool and coat the reaming tool with rubber cement approximately on the first third or halfway down. There's no point doing it all the way through because this is going to spread up anyway. And what this will do is it will coat the inner edges of the hole after you with vulcanizing solution, after you have removed the foreign object. So as well as reaming out the hole to a nice round size, it will coat it as well. So a good dollop of that on there, and then you need to get your handy pliers. So you should be carrying, of course, along with this, you don't get the pliers with the kit, so along with this you should be carrying something like a Leatherman tool, or a small pair of pliers in a toolkit or something similar. So we get the handy pliers to remove the foreign object. Now, because I'm in the workshop here, I'm just going to use these that I've got to hand. And of course this at the side of the road is going to be a little easier because you don't have to hold the tyre because it's obviously fixed to the bike. So you may also need a screwdriver or something similar to help pull this out, but you get hold of this as best you can. Pull this out, make sure you've got your reaming tool ready. And you can hear the air going there, so there we go. Hopefully you can see that. I'll try and get this in shot for you. So we run that in and out like so, and what this does is it gives you a nice round hole. Okay, leaving that in there, I'm going to take this tool here, and then we're going to put a good dollop of the vulcanizing cement on just the leading edges of this, because again it will spread as you push it through. Now anyone that's patched bicycle tyres in the past or patched inner tubes, you'll recognise the smell of this stuff straight away. It's just your typical run-of-the-mill vulcanizing solution. Whoops. And so a good coating of that. We'll get this ready and place it in position, pull out this and push in. The plug. like so. And you push this in until you've got about a quarter to a half inch of the plug sticking out and remaining in there, like so. And then you part twist the insertion tool and draw it out, and oops, like so. This comes out, as you can see there, and what you've got is your plug sticking out there with your vulcanizing solution. So at this point it gets a little messy with the rubber solution, so a pair of gloves might be a useful addition as well with your underseat toolkit, a pair of disposable latex gloves or something similar. You then take your blade, being very careful not to slice your hands, and cut this as close as possible to the tyre. Scrape off any excess vulcanizing solution there as well, because you don't want any of that. You don't want an excess of that, rather. Obviously that will wear away as you ride on. And there you go. And there is your repair. I'll just get this out of the way and clean myself up, and I'll give you a close-up of that. Okay, so something I will say is it's definitely worth keeping a pair of rubber gloves under your seat. They don't have to be anything fancy, like your particularly fancy latex ones or anything like that. If push comes to shove, a pair of marigolds will do the job. But certainly worthwhile, otherwise you're going to be picking rubber cement solution off your fingers for the remainder of the day and possibly into tomorrow as well. And I should have remembered this from the good old days of doing bicycle puncture repairs, but there you go. But there's a close-up of the repair. As you can see, it has created a tiny little bit of a bulge in the centre line there, because I deliberately did this just off centre, because obviously you can never guarantee it's going to be bang on centre. And typically any kind of repair, this is only supposed to be an emergency repair anyway until you can get the tyre properly plugged or what have you. But any type of repair for a long-term solution, if it's out with the middle third of the tyre, then you have to be kind of careful because of the flex related problems. In the middle section you're generally okay, but that's what the plug looks like once it's in. It's absolutely solid, even though that vulcanizing solution hasn't fully set. There's not a bit of air escaping, and what I'm going to do now is get the I'm going to get the pump that I pumped this tyre up with, and using the gauge on that I pumped it up to 35 psi, and I'm going to see how much air I've lost. Well, according to this, that's just under 30 psi, and that was with a pumped up reading of 35 psi. Now obviously if you've lost a lot of air during the puncture occurring, then this is all a moot point. But if you've noticed this and your tyre is still quite full of air, if you've had a puncture from something like a screw or a nail, most things will actually quite effectively seal the tyre. So unless it's actually losing air and that makes you notice it, if you just notice the foreign objects when you're inspecting your tyres and the tyres are still full of air, if you follow your emergency tyre repair procedure using this method, then theoretically 1 or maybe 2 CO2 cylinders should be adequate to get you up to a good working tyre pressure to continue your journey until you can find somewhere to properly inflate and recheck your tyres. Ideally, of course, you'd be carrying a tyre pressure gauge with you anyway, in your sort of minimal toolkit, because it's always handy to be able to do that, especially if you're out and about on a weekend jaunt, because your tyres on a bike, of course, are very important. So it's important to know what pressures you're running and whether you're losing anything. So all in all, I'm quite pleased with that little experiment, because having watched a few of these repairs, it's occurred to me a few times. You see people use the reamer, take it out, they do all this kind of thing, then they start threading the repair stick in, and then they put the goop on there, and then they push it in, and of course during the process of doing this they've lost a good 20 psi of air out of the tyre, and it just seems such a waste, when quite obviously the reamer does a very good job of keeping the air in. So hopefully that's been useful for you. Thank you for watching. What I shall probably do, because I'm going to demount this tyre anyway, is depending on whether I get round to processing this first before I take the tyre off or not, I might add a picture of what this looks like on the inside of the tyre once I've removed it. If not, I'll just add that on a separate extra little video. So thank you for watching, and check back for more videos.